some pretty crazy stuff has happened, and you wouldn't think that like, oh, some more crazier stuff could possibly happen, but yet it has. So, gonna refresh this. So anyway, it's everything lead. It's Sunday. We're gonna talk about lead. I'm gonna scan some of these baby bottles. Check this baby bottle. It has some lead on it. I can't. Yeah, back to your question. Will my results vary from Lead Safe Mama? So if you go on Lead Safe Mama's website right now, and you look at the third generation Haka, which is a dumb name, honestly, it's going to be negative for lead. She said non-detect. And I don't think her instrument is broken, although it is over 10 years old. This one is like 4 years old. The other one I got is brand new. It's not nearby though. But this one, it certainly has lead on. I saw somebody else test it. Just shot 8,000 ppm lead. So the thing about Let's Safe Mama's whole model is that it's based on her being the test, essentially. She's like a one-woman tester, right? So then you go to her for the information, and then she gets Amazon affiliate money from it, and she gets advertising traffic to her website. She got a lot of money from me, as a matter of fact, through this same model. But I realized at a certain point that there was a ginormous flaw in her methodology. And that stems, I think, not from like scientific limitation, but instead it stems from an inherent bias. And she does so she does do third-party testing. I mean, she refers to herself as a third party, but she sends the food out for a third-party test. I have a atomic absorption spectrometer in the other room, and it almost took my life, actually. As a matter of fact, last summer I was doing some of the most toughest analysis. I didn't realize that sodium chloride is a very difficult additive to screen through when you're testing for lead in an atomic absorption spectrometer. It messes with the signal. It also will blow some of the lead out of the tube if you don't do a good job. So it was really challenging, and I spent like a month and a half just like staying, and the thing was right here. This hole was sucking the fumes out, and I was just like sleeping here. I was going crazy. And then after that, I just really needed a break, and I didn't really handle it well. But we'll get to that another time. So the third party, so would your results vary from the third party testing she does? Anna, you're referring to the food testing, right? And the possibility is always that, I mean, my results right here vary from hers on her website because there's different batches of stuff. This is the same, generation of Haka bottle, but this one has lead. The one that she tested 2 years ago and then updated it last year didn't have lead. Yeah, all my homies hate lead too. And Anna, I appreciate your response. So I think it's highly likely that my results would vary at least to some degree unless I got the exact same batch. And even in the same, because she only apparently tests processed foods, it seems like. And I think that even inside the same bag of, let's say, potato chips, there's going to be varying levels of lead amongst each individual chip. Because they're cut from different potatoes, there's more or less soil interspersed within the potato matrix, if you will. And so food testing normally is done, by grinding up a big sample into a homogenized mixture and then testing a portion of that. And I'm not a pro with the spectrometer. It is way harder than I anticipated. Shout out to spectrometer using people because it is definitely scientific as hell. The software sucks. It's 15 years old. The manufacturers give absolutely no, assistance with it, and they just assume you know how to use it. So, I don't know. My results would, even if I did it perfectly, they would definitely be different because there's just so much variation in the food. The reality with the food though is, I wouldn't inherently trust I actually made a calculator on my website. I forgot the exact link. I think it's detectlead.com/ there's probably a link on the top of the page still. It's about vitamins containing lead, prenatal vitamins containing lead. I did a video on that recently. And love mass spec everything, by the way. And so when I lost my train of thought there. Mass spec's the man. But the testing that I did, I can't remember at all what I was saying. Somebody remind me in the chat. I'm going to break open one of these boxes. Home garden soil test. I would be worried if you use my test. I'd be worried about any lead you can detect. This is my knife, by the way. Pretty dull, but we'll get through it. Oh yeah, let's say I made a Dr. Brown's. This is actually what caused her to block me on Instagram, because I said it had like 30 or ppm lead or something, like a very small amount. Like, it's not a big deal, but she's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So the variations in testing, I was actually going to talk Westy Ken about the fact that she uses the 5 ppm benchmark for the idealized amount of lead that you would find in baby food, which honestly is not even like a good amount of lead. Because like if you eat 100 grams of baby food a day, of formula per day, let's say, and it's 5 ppb lead, that's going to be, I think 500 nanograms of lead, if I'm not mistaken. One ppb, yeah, it's 1 nanogram per gram if it's 1 ppb, and it's 1 microgram per gram if it's 1 ppm. So what do you know? You know, it's just a random number. So if you look at the calculator I built on there, you can plug in the amount of grams of food that you eat, and you can put in the ppb that it is, and then press calculate, and it will show you the Prop 65 number, the Let's Save Mama number. There's another one that I absolutely love. It's something about like biokinetic modeling of lead excretion versus retention. And it will basically allow you to understand how much lead you have inside of your body that's going to build up over time. If you're a child, they recommend that you eat only 2.2 micrograms of lead per day, an adult up to 7.7 micrograms of lead per day. And this is designed to keep the blood lead level below 1. It's actually designed, I think, for children to keep it below 3.5 with a 10 times safety factor. And what that means is you could have a child eating 22 micrograms of lead per day, and their blood lead would only get to 3.5, which is like the arbitrary threshold for what constitutes an elevated blood lead level. There's a really wild acronym. It's very difficult to, and this live is being recorded. It's going to go on YouTube. I did finally get my stuff together. But who would have thought that a pseudo-mad scientist would not have 100% of the stuff working 100% of the time. So this one I'm not detecting any lead in. It's below the limit of the detection. There's a 2 sigma margin of error of 3. So, I mean, there's no lead in this. Zinc, 3,500. Some titanium, a little bit of tungsten. No lead, right? I'm going to test the other one just for fun. And so Sarah rightly points out that blocking somebody is really wild and anti-scientific. And of course, because I mean, if Let's Save Mom was scientific, she would be open to my ideas, which are highly scientific and highly efficacious. I really love science, and I love logic. And I don't do very well when people act in illogical ways. And I understand that there's like competing interests. And many times it's like you or me. There's only so much food, like one would think. But I'm like, hey, like, have you ever heard of farming? I'm a farmer. Like, I could make farms, if I wanted to. If I really put my mind to it and effort into it, I'm sure I could make a sweet farm. But maybe later. Right now we're doing lead. So when it came to push came to shove, and I started saying like, hey, like, are your methods like really efficient? Like, are you actually preventing people from getting lead poisoning, and how are you doing that? Because she seems to be unable to obtain any degree of self-perpetuating virality. And although she has traffic to her website, I became concerned that it was similar to the traffic on the lead testing kit that I made in 2019, which is a sodium rhodizonate based lead testing kit. I was able to make it for 10 times less than it was being sold for by 3M. Because 3M had bought this patent that was written in like 1995, I think. And the product was really designed around the patent. Anybody could have made the test that I made at any time, essentially. But since it was like a patented product, it was like so much better to be selling. And that's kind of how, how things go in business. Like businesses obviously don't want competition. That's fatal to the business. So somebody would think. And anyway, so back on track. The lead test that I made in 2019 resulted in, I sold like probably around this point like 250,000 30 packs of lead swabs. And the crazy thing is that I didn't know anything about lead before this, but I found out like, okay, yeah, people are using this. This is like a good thing. I originally started off by selling drug testing kits. I had an experience, when I was younger, where I was addicted to opioids, and I saw a lot of like people, dying and a lot of like harm being done. So I developed this like really like hardcore like ideation about, knowing what you're putting in your body, right? And knowing like what to do and what not to do to stay alive. And so when I made this drug testing kit, I was like, wow, like if people just like know what's in the kit, what's in the powder they're about to ingest, they're gonna be way safer, and they're gonna ingest it anyway if they're being responsible. Like nobody's gonna do drugs just because there's a way to be responsible. Like I mean, maybe somebody, but that person's got to figure it out one way or another. Am I right? But so anyway, I don't think I promoted anything bad there, but I did sell these testing kits, and they did test for whatever substances. But the trick I used there was I split the reagent and the acid, because I saw the test kits that were being sold. They had to be refrigerated. They had to be, they had like a 4-month shelf life. I'm like, that's terrible. There's no reason to have a 4-month shelf life on these stable chemicals if you don't mix them until you're ready to use them. And that's the same technology that's like purportedly patented in the 3M lead check product. But like this is 1992. Nobody ever tried that patent. Nobody ever said this patent is obvious and it's not correctly been decided upon that it is something that should be exclusive. And so once I stopped selling that, Amazon told me to stop selling it, and I started making the lead test. So I figured people could activate the sodium rhodisnate swab head with vinegar, because everybody has vinegar in their house. Like I'm pretty sure, white vinegar, any kind of vinegar. And so I'm like, I could keep the cost super low and still make some profit on this. And what I did was I just started selling it. And then so I started getting these reviews. This one review really broke my heart, because the review said, "My heart sunk." And it was a 5-star review. And it was this huge paragraph about how this woman had found the source of lead that was poisoning her kid, but she only bought the kit after the kid started getting poisoned. And I was like, had this really mixed feelings about this. And I didn't really know like what to do, because like the kit was only $17. The swabs are not exciting to use. There was really no way to promote them. It was just like, all right, this is a product on Amazon. And so I just like, whatever, did whatever for a few years. I sold some other stuff too. And I kind of got wrapped up in that and, life and doing a lot of different things. And so when I noticed that, let's say if Mama was basically the same thing, like she's like a catch-all for these pre-poisoned kids and already traumatized or scared people, I became worried that there had to be a better way, basically. Because I got a lot of customer service calls also after that initial review. That was in like 2019 I got that review. That's when I started selling those test kits. And everybody who called for customer service, most of the people anyway, I asked them, why did you buy this test? And the vast majority of people said, because my child has lead poisoning. The doctor said they have lead poisoning, or they had an elevated level that wasn't over the limit. So nobody from the government is coming to help us. And I'm trying to find the source. And I was always like, oh my gosh, like that sucks. Like that's not good. But I still had no solution. And so once I found out about this glowing lead test, I was like, wow, this is like literally lit. This is going to be something that does have self-perpetuating virality, which is a great band name, by the way. And it's something that I really feel really passionate about, because there's no way that waiting for kids to get lead poisoning and then testing them and then going to the environment to screen makes any sense. And, lead is always all about the money. Selling lead is about the money. Detection is about the money. The limit is about the money. How much money is the government going to bleed into people's, houses? A lot of them are rented houses, federally subsidized properties that the government has really dragged their feet on helping out these folks, and agencies drag their feet as much as they can. I don't know why. It's not like any of the people who work for any of these places have any skin in the game. I mean, the federal government has a deficit of like $30 trillion, which is insane. Like who thinks, like, I know Americans have like a problem with credit card debt, but like America has like a problem with credit card, with like it's using its own like self as a credit card. Like we can't declare bankruptcy. It's insane. So anyway, I didn't bring any mangoes. That's my spiel about the differences between me and LeadSafe. And then so I brought this up, we got into like a kind of a heated argument. Not heated, but I was just like, I mentioned earlier that I have a terrible ability to function or kind of like converse with people who do, I wouldn't call it pseudoscientific responses, but I would call it responses that are nonsensical and engineered to avoid answering questions that are critical at their heart. I understand that people don't do well under scrutiny, and there's like, there's some tact involved with, some kind of like pseudo manipulation when you talk to somebody and you try to, get to them in a way that allows them to save face. But like, I'm like, when somebody takes advantage of you for a certain period of time, it's difficult not to be like, World War II's over, like surrender, like you're wild, like you have to surrender, or we're dropping the bombs. And the bombs for me are like, hey, answer this question. Like, oh, that wasn't an answer. And like, so anyway, I'm not going to get into it anymore, but that's just an ongoing thing. So LeadSafe is a different perspective, I think. She has a different ability, skill set. And, she bought an XRF gun like 10 years ago, which is pretty wild. I mean, she was the first person to do that. And when I met her, she had, projected like 9 million views. I don't think she hit that. I think she got like 7 or 8 that year, and it was been going down ever since. And I think that, I was talking to somebody today about the disclaimer on her website or her Instagram page. And it's like, your mental health is your responsibility. If you feel that this group is harming your mental health, leave the group. Pretty insane disclaimer to have on a private Facebook group that's heavily moderated. Actually, if you go there and you mention my name, my product, it's not going to get posted unless you say something bad about it, which is not sure about that. But anyway, c'est la vie. So let's XRF another baby bottle. I'll answer some more lead questions. I'm not going to just ramble on about this situation. But this is actually a cord. I'm going to test this cord, though. I thought that my camera was broken, but I don't know what was going on. Sound, like the whole filming stuff it's its own whole thing. Like once you get super serious about it, it's not that easy. So there's no lead in this. There's some titanium, a lot of titanium actually, a little bit of rubidium, zirconium. That Dr. Brown's was negative for lead. No lead, nothing weird or bad in that one whatsoever. I think Dr. Brown's is great. I think a lot of people misconstrued my last year test on the Dr. Brown's bottle because I said there was some lead, but it was like 40 parts per million lead. So that's 40 atoms of lead out of a million parts of atoms in glass, or it was in the glass, I think. And that's just like sand. So what the heck? Cutting open another box. Oh, I got a few in here. Oh, Bernie. I feel like this one's a little sketchy. This one is definitely sketchy. Numvim. That's sketchy. Another O'Bernie. And like, I don't know if I was able to buy all the lead tests, all the baby bottles to lead test, but I did get a lot of them. And this one's actually plastic, so I'm not going to bother with that one. But no plastic bottles have lead. Plastic never has lead on it. But it does, I guess, have microplastics, which I don't know if that's... I'm surprised this thing looks like it's blocking my face, but maybe I should turn it. Let's see. Let's go like this. I'm not that skilled. I'm like dangerously close now, though, to starting a podcast. But who would I invite on? I feel like it would be the hot seat. It wouldn't be that fun to be on my podcast for reasons I basically just described. You know, let's say Mama did everything but hang up on me. But she did take advantage of the fact that she was like, she realized that the gig was up at that point and that she had nothing to gain. So this has no lead either. Some copper, which is funny because it's a copper color. It's going to test this nipple too. So I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of fear about lead. And I think that makes sense because it's a scary thing when you read what happens. So Russell's asking, 3M test shows false positives in presence of other heavy metals. Does your test have a false positive percentage? Actually, no. There's no other metal that will cause a false positive. The reason for that is it's a different chemical reaction. And it's not just a chemical reaction. It's actually the spontaneous formation of tiny crystals. And the crystals are a certain species of mineral that has the unique property of fluorescing green. So there's a litany of things, let's say, that are red. But most things don't fluoresce red. You need a certain composition of matter, not even just the actual chemical composition, but you need a certain composition of the physical crystal structure to get fluorescence. So if you melt down the crystals from the fluorospec, you dump water on them, they're not going to, I don't know if my phone can cut this open, they're not going to fluoresce anymore. So you can't use the test in water. I mean, it's not perfect, You can't use it in the rain. You have to, it won't detect kinds of lead that are insoluble. You can't detect lead fluoride. You can't detect lead, what's another one? Can't detect lead fluoride. Lead chromate is difficult to detect with any chemical test, really. Yeah, the photons are crazy inside of these crystals. I think, this is a controversial opinion, but I'm pretty sure that the speed of light is, it's interesting because suppose you have a person and they move from point A to point B at the same rate. Like it'll take them 1 hour to get from point A to point B, and it's 60 miles. So they're going 60 miles an hour, right? Everybody could agree with that. But suppose the person actually is running in a zigzag pattern across the street as they travel from point A to point B, and they still get there in 60 minutes, going those 60 miles. Wow, this is tough. Tough plastic. Hopefully there's no lead in it. But so I think, so let's say you have two people, and one person, they only cross the road 25 times during that 60-mile trip. The other person crosses the road 250 times during that 10-mile trip. And so they're doing 10 times more crossing of the road, but they both get there in the same time. I would postulate and think that the person who's walking across the road is going to be traveling faster. And that would make sense because higher wavelengths, less space in between the peaks of the wavelengths are equated with higher energy. So ultraviolet radiation is invisible to our eyes, but the green radiation that comes off of a lead sample that tests positive for fluorospec is visible to our eyes because it's a longer wavelength. It's less energetic, but the speed of light is constant, right? I don't know. Does it really move? Is it a waveform or is it bouncing around something? It's too difficult to even think about, honestly. I spent the last 3 months thinking about this junk. I don't want to think about it anymore. What I do want to think about is the idea that this bottle does not have any lead. I feel like I got to get my other XRF because I really should do both. It's kind of a wasted opportunity. You all can come with me if you want, though. YouTube, I'll be right back. I am not an only child. I'm the oldest child. It's only boy. Makes me feel like an only child sometimes. All right, so hopefully this battery was dead too. I don't know where half these batteries are, but this one's going to boot up. You can listen to it and make this a little noise. Baby bottle brands tested so far. I'm going to do a more major video on this tomorrow or something. So I did the Haka, has lead. The other ones all didn't. So this one is called Num Vim, which feels like it could have lead at any second. I did this one, Oh Bernie, another one. I don't know who makes this. Yeah, Stephanie. So I made that video, but then I didn't go back. Khrushchev, take down this wall. Was that the wall? But was that? I feel like that was a East and West Germany thing. Even Germany. I mean, what was wrong with the Germany after World War II? Not a good place to live. After World War II, to say the least. During World War II, it was probably horrible. I seriously doubt that most of the people there were like down with what was happening. But I mean, what if we go to war today, America? I mean, we're kind of at war, right? We're kind of like, aren't we? Just like, I saw a video with a bunch of people sitting on the ground just got smoked by like a bomb or whatever. They're just hanging out in a circle and then they just got obliterated. Like, do I agree with that? Like, I don't know what were they doing? Like, I don't know the context. It's difficult to know. I wish I was in that chat, that Signal chat, and everyone's like, yeah, like here are they called them war plans or whatever. Or no, they didn't call them war plans, but I felt like they were kind of plans for battles at least. Pigeon. Okay, so this is identical. This is a crazy pigeon bottle. I've never seen this one before. I mean, is this even useful? It's so small. But anyway, we will bury you, bang shoe on the podium, beginning of the Cold War. Oh wow. So Khrushchev was really crazy. See, I don't know the history that well on that one. But damn, he said we will bury you? That's some serious fighting words. It's so crazy. I mean, I would be so pissed though if I was Russia. Because they did the serious heavy lifting in World War II. I know America did some serious heavy lifting too, I guess, but Russia was also pretty, 36 million people died in Russia. And the war happened in Russia. So, like, I feel like America had no war happen here. Well, like a balloon came over here, like a submarine came nearby. Like, who cares? All we did was sacrifice our youth and drop nuclear weapons on other countries. And then get so rich. So, Pigeon 2024, 2025. And this is a freaky one because this has the same exact ink as this O'Byrne one. Literally identical color. And it also has copper, albeit some more. But this is also a darker tinge. So I can see why that is. Yeah, I was really in need of a detect lead based moment. So yeah, pigeon, this freaky weird pigeon bottle has no lead. O'Byrne has no lead. Actually, that's all the bottles. I swear I bought more bottles. There must be in the mail. There's more O'Byrnes here. I'll open these too. So it's crazy. So I don't know. I don't want to talk about I've been thinking about World War II a lot for some reason. Because it's like such a seminal moment in human history where like we finally got technology like queued up to actually do some stuff. And then what happened? It was like fascist dictators just went nuts and started taking over other countries and doing some really horrible stuff. And they utilized technology. I mean, like if you look at the rockets, like Elon Musk's rocket, like that's essentially just a V2 German rocket design, a rocket engine that was designed by the Germans in World War II. Like that was the first time that scientists got involved with making stuff that was really crazy. And I think prior to World War I, they had just made nitrogen. I forgot what it's called. The Bosch-Herber process, I think. The Bosch-Herber process. And you can, because nitrogen is in the air, right? But you can make ammonia out of the air if you heat up the nitrogen and put it over to a catalyst or something. I don't remember exactly. This is the same O'Byrne. I don't expect this to be any different. I'm going to rescan all the ones with this one. See if I find any traces of lead. Because this is a newer model. This is from 2024. And I think it was probably better in some way. Who knows what these XRF people do. The people who sold this, they do not care at all. I actually still, XRF people, if you're watching this, you suck. Because, see, this one has, I'm not loving this one that much now. Because this is a different mode. So now it's picking up the 891 ppm of chromium, and the 895 ppm of vanadium. Which, whatever, I don't know. Neither of those are not toxic, but I don't think that they're like super deadly or anything. But still, chromium, if it's hexavalent, and we can't know that, there's a testing methodology that you can use. I don't have it. I never tried it, but whatever. Macy asks, Eric, if I buy a Fluorospec, do I need to wash toys after putting the solution on it? Looking to test wood toys with paint on them. I definitely would. The solution is composed of isopropyl alcohol, 99%, which can soften paint for sure, and also is composed of methyl ammonium bromide, which isn't toxic, but it tastes terrible. It's going to irritate your eyes. It may irritate your skin, albeit unlikely because there's so little of it. And there's mandelic acid, which is in cosmetics, but I wouldn't want to give those to children. It's just because why? Why expose children to anything if they don't need to be exposed? Like, why, and we're like, oh, children should be protected, but like, why expose anybody to anything, But it's just that the human brain and life, they like, I've worked in conditions where it's like, this is like I'm definitely inhaling some stuff that is not good. I was on an airplane and then I saw we went on the ground and then I was sitting in the back of the airplane. It just smelled like jet fuel. I'm like, this is toxic. Like the poor, the people who go in the jet planes, they get like, you fly from here to California. I'm in New York. You're going to get 4 chest x-rays worth of gamma radiation. I turned on a Geiger counter in the airplane and I turned it right off because I'm like, people are going to flip out in 2 seconds probably because it's making these crazy clicking sounds and now it's beeping loudly because it's alarmed at how much radiation there is. I think there was like 30, I don't know, whatever it was. It said it was way higher than it is on the ground, basically. What time is it? 8:14? All right, cool. So I'm going to do this for another 15 minutes and then get off. Ask me all your lead questions. I'm here to answer them. I don't know. This was a little disappointing on the baby bottle volume, but I'll get the rest of the bottles. I don't know. There's probably more boxes around here somewhere. Humanity's biggest flaw is negative use of technology, I think. Yeah, for sure. The guy who made the Birch-Haber process made fertilizer effectively. It made it so we could put nitrogen back into the soil, so we could just grow tons of crops, right? And then people would starve without this. But at the same time, ammonium nitrate's explosive, and trinitroglycerin is dynamite. And so the person who made this was like, actually his name was Alfred Nobel, I think, who made the trinitroglycerin. And the funny thing about the Nobel Peace Prize is it's actually a great piece of propaganda put out by a traumatized Alfred Nobel. When his brother passed away, they mistakenly reported that he had died. And they said, Merchant of Death dies. And he was so horrified, that his dynamite creation, dynamite has like industrial uses for sure. But they're, obviously it was like used as freaking bomb fodder. They were bombing people and blowing people apart. World War I was horrible. World War II is really terrible. And not just on the battlefield, obviously, but World War I, they just figured out all these chemical processes. So they're just using these horrible chemical weapons. And chemical weapons are kind of great, I guess, if you don't care and you want to win. Because you just all right, we just cooked up 55 gallons of this. Let's throw it out of a plane. Nobody's going to be allowed to go in that area. There's toxic mustard gas. There's cyanide-laced poison toxic gas. It's really effed up. If you drop a freaking barrel of some gas on some people, they're not going to do well. So the people in World War I got horribly gassed and shot with machine guns. In trench warfare, oh my gosh, that was horrible. But I feel like the solution to trench warfare is just to make I don't know, they didn't have a remote control car, or they didn't have something that could just drive forward, something with wheels that would just drive across and then would just go into the other trench and just blow it up. I feel like if you just did that, they didn't have grenades that could go into the other trenches. It just doesn't make sense. Because shooting machine guns obviously is ineffective. It's only good for the people who sell the bullets, right, and make the machine guns. Really, what they could have benefited from probably would be if they had a tower, if they had a telephone pole that they could erect with a machine gun at the top and maybe some mirrors so you can aim. Then they could have fired down into the other trenches. Am I right? Anyway, I've gone too far. So the Alfred Nobel Peace Prize is really just Alfred Nobel, who got filthy rich off of selling dynamite, trying to like make himself seem like a good guy. And like it definitely worked up until the time I saw a video on it, and maybe the time all of you saw this. So it looks like some people know about this. I don't have a background in chemistry, but I do have a background in just doing stuff and learning stuff. So I really love science. And I think that I watched this great thing today about knowing recipes versus just having a deep understanding of cooking. And so if you are going for efficiency, doing recipes is great. All right, like I know exactly how to do this. Like I know this one singular process. That's like a factory worker on a assembly line. Okay, yeah. All I do is I just go like this. I have a special technique, and I can do that faster than anybody. Super efficient. But if you're trying to engage in a more complicated task, it really behooves oneself to have a deep understanding of the totality of the information surrounding that topic, which allows for innovation and the creativity that, like brings forth like new realities. And so that's like, I think what I bring to the lead game is this like Swiss Army knife of understanding about science and the confluence of science and technology. And like somebody correctly mentioned, like, one of the horrible things of, humanity is misuse of technology. So, you know, and yeah, they sent us here, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Operation Paperclip. Yeah. That was not a good time. But I feel like a lot of those folks would have never onboarded any of those ideas. And they just happened to live there. And the Germans have had a long history of like, having like kind of like a Ubermensch mentality. I feel like if something's labeled non-toxic, it should be if you eat it, not that you should eat it. Yeah, I mean, plenty of stuff is like technically non-toxic, but like it still is like pseudo-toxic. Do planes still do use lead gas? Only propeller planes. The jet planes don't use them. Any Life Factory? Yeah, I did Japeth, I did order some Life Factory glass bottles. Yeah, and somebody said that there was they found some lead, low amounts in the glass, and I want to know if it even matters. I tested that viral blue water bottle with the XRF and had no lead, but like I want the bottle with like 150 ppm lead, 300 ppm lead, and water that's been sitting in it forever. And I want to test that water because I don't think that that's going to leach out significant quantities. The lead glass, like the lead crystal, has 24% lead oxide. The oxygen probably composes like 5%, so like 19% of that is pure lead metal. Still clear. Crazy, it's crazy. Like, that aluminum garnet? Sorry, well, yeah, I mean, a ruby, a sapphire, an emerald. Those are all, and there's other yttrium garnets. I think I bought a lot of yttrium last year or something. I bought a lot of aluminum. I bought some yttrium too. But I was really getting into these crystallography like things and crazy laser stuff. But because it's like there's so much innovation that's possible in the realm of like the analytical chemistry, and the people who are allowed to actually innovate are like dead, and their companies have been taken over by investors who will do stuff like tell me I got to wait 6 months to send this XRF in to get a $10,000 upgrade, which is a software upgrade. And now they won't give me a refund. I forgot about this. I don't even know what's going on with this. I got to call them and say, hey, what's going on with this? Because I'm unwilling to send this away for 6 months. That's a long period of time. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's just a bummer, So I really want to innovate and make things better. But I've tested a bunch of water bottles last year. They weren't positive for lead. Why do companies sneak so much lead into products? I think it's just because, people sell lead, Like, why do they sneak so much crack into the neighborhood? Because, like, people sell it. Like, there's people willing to sell it. And people, like, need a job. And then the company that sells lead is like, hey, we're a company. We exist. You need a job. We're hiring. You have other options, whatever. Do you really care? I don't know. So then people sell the lead, and then there's like some supply chain thing, and then the lead gets put into stuff. Like it's not like it's put in there by mistake, like it's part of the recipe. And there's a person who sells that to that company that makes that recipe. Like, like it's weird. It's weird to think about. I mean, it's just a legacy thing. Nobody thinks there's like, I'm just following orders. You know what I mean? I don't know. The culpability though is like non-existent for companies that sell lead products typically. I mean, look at Haya. I don't know what's going to happen going forward. I mean, they've been acquired by private equity, and they definitely, I think, most likely violated CSPC rules. They also wiped all the evidence off their Instagram. If you look at it, they deleted all the evidence that they used the bottles to market the product as if it was going to be interacted with by the children. And I think that would constitute something that's intended for use by children. And so they would have had to go through different CSPC regulations. Now, like the people who were sold the Haya bottles that have lead, like, are they entitled to compensation? Is there a proof of damages? I don't really know. I'm not a lawyer. It seems like a really long road to like figure that out, It's way too much thinking. Old refrigerant at R12, I never even heard of that. Burns, it makes phosgene. That kind of tracks, right? Yeah, I do ask why a lot. I'm the big asking why. I used to ask why all the time. And my mom would not like it. My dad would be like, I don't know, ask your mom. Which was a great idea because like these questions are unanswerable. I remember one time I asked the guy at church, I'm like, why? I'm like, what? I'm like, what did you just say? I'm like 10. Does water garden hoses leach on safe amounts of lead in my veggie carrots? So I haven't actually, I'm sorry, I did, and I want to apologize to anybody who's still watching this on YouTube or on Instagram Live. I definitely dropped the ball last year with like advancing my like scientific acumen because there's the stress of like that experience and like the ongoing like difficulty with getting anywhere with certain things kind of took up a lot of my mental capacity, and it really culminated in me kind of like making like some serious errors in judgment and like hiring the wrong person and the wrong people then after, and like spending months in like a fog and all this stuff, and like I'm very ashamed of that. And so I didn't test those water hoses for leaching yet. I just did some leach testing today, and it was pretty successful. I think I feel comfortable with the leach testing is easier to do than testing salt, which was the hardest thing. So that was my real mistake probably. But I mean, I could have just spent $50,000 on testing all the food, and I could have just burned through every single food item, and it would have been way more efficient probably. But I wanted the spectrometer for my own use on the glow test, research and development into that. And I also didn't think it was going to be that hard to use. So I kind of underestimated it. But anyway, insofar as the hoses are concerned, I think the best course of action, and this is true anytime you turn on the tap, just let it run for a little while to purge out what's inside of the hose. So like the hose is sitting there for 24 hours. That's 24 hours of time that water was able to sit in contact with the inside of the hose. Whether it has lead or not, it's still going to taste horrible if you drink that. However, if you turn the water on and you flush that out, the water is in there for maybe 24 seconds if it's a 100-foot hose. I mean, it depends on how much you're putting out of the hose, the end of the hose. So always run the taps, always exhaust that water somewhere that's not into your bowl or if you're going to cook food, like don't cook with the water that just has been sitting in your tap all day or drink, right away. So I would go a little safer route by just, water your lawn with that water the first 30 seconds or so. Nalgene plastic bottles. I have one. I haven't scanned it. I don't think it has lead. The weirdest place I found lead, probably some jewelry that I was like, why does this jewelry have lead? Like, why do these wooden balls, why are they testing at 250 parts per million lead on glowing, like so bright my eyes are literally like, when you eat something and like you can feel like that like tinge of like your saliva like coming out so much or something, whatever it is, it's like, wow, it's sweet or it's sour or something. It was like my eyes had that experience. Like I looked at so much glowing lead, I think I became addicted to looking at it. How likely is stainless steel have lead? Really not likely at all. I wouldn't be worried about stainless steel and lead. Maybe some chromium. Is it true that organic food, or nickel too, is more likely due to contain lead than organic counterpart? If so, why? So that's a good question, and I think I should probably do a video on this. I could probably do a pretty cool video about, like, I don't know, throwing stuff somewhere or something. But the idea is basically that there's lead in the soil, and the lead goes into the plants, and then the amount of soil lead in the soil is diminished at that time. So if you take the plants that have been grown in leady soil and then you deposit them, like, in an organic farming scheme as fertilizer for crops elsewhere, you're going to wind up putting more lead back into that soil. So you're kind of like constantly putting more lead back into the soil versus, as we talked about a little bit earlier with the nitrogen, ammonia fertilizer. If you put potassium, nitrogen, and what's the other one? Potassium, nitrogen, and phosphorus into the soil, you can just grow crops forever, pretty much. And you're not putting any more lead. There's no lead in ammonia. There's no lead in phosphate fertilizer or and I forgot the other one. Whatever the other one is. I'm not a farmer, but it's just insane, So here's the thing though, organic food is like, probably devoid of, like, because like people get really bent out of shape about GMOs, and I'm like always like, GMOs, nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But as somebody also very astutely or adroitly or whatever the word is correctly pointed out, that humans typically, or like the biggest like crime against humanity, is using technology for evil, for bad, for selfish, stupid reason. Like, case in point, lead in the gas. Why did somebody put lead in the gas? Because they could patent it and they could make tons of money off of it. It solved a problem, yes, but there was already a problem. There was already a problem-solving chemical that existed. It was called ethanol, and that's why there's ethanol in all the gas today, because it's a great anti-knock agent. It makes the gasoline explode less, but you need a lot of it, and there wasn't a way to mass-produce corn like there is today. There was no monocultures, and it was easier to cook up some tetraethyl lead, which I still have never made because it's just so horrible to make. Literally alloying sodium metal, which is horrible. It's like always like smoking and burning and being crazy. I don't know if any of you remember the sodium bowl versus the Pyrex bowl video. That was actually crazy. I actually almost got seriously burned from that. And Janelle too. It was just insane. Playing with sodium in the snow is not advisable. But I digress. Tetraethyl lead was pretty easy to make, and then pretty toxic, and probably the worst mistake humanity's ever experienced. And we're really paying for that today. I mean, if everybody inhaled so much lead in the air, and there was so much lead everywhere because of this, widespread dissemination of lead through the burning of gas and, all the cars that America had versus other parts of the world,